Expect a miracle.
You have the power of choice.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ.
Welcome to Life Today Live. We have a special program today. Happy Veterans Day, Remembrance Day, depending on where you're at. We salute all of our service members, past and current. Thank you all. Today we're going to talk to actors from The Chosen more. I mean, you guys responded so well to the last couple interviews where I was on the set of The Chosen that I was like very excited that I was able to get some on Zoom today because 1 week from today, The Chosen 3, Season 3, drops, and it kicks off with a special event in movie theaters. You can go to angel.com or fathomevents.com and find the events. The Angel website looks like this, but The Chosen will kick off the season in theaters next week, 1 week from today, November 18th, and so get your groups together, get your friends together, and buy a bunch of tickets. This will be fun. Jordan Ross plays Little James in the Chosen series, and he joins us now. Jordan, great to have you on Life Today Live.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, talk to me a little bit about the role, because I mean, this is a different kind of deal, and it's blown up. It's gotten big. What's it done for you?
Oh, I mean, what hasn't The Chosen done for me? It's the Chosen has in more ways than one changed my life. You know, when I booked the role of Little James, I was working an office job at an acting school. I hadn't booked anything in years, so it kind of sparked my career. I had been pursuing acting since I was 6 and had mild success here and there, but nothing consistent until The Chosen. And so it came at the perfect time. I had just started a family. I was feeling kind of stuck. But then beyond that, it's helped give me a sense of purpose. It's unlocked all of these different passions of mine in terms of being an advocate for the disabled community. And it's given me a platform to speak to kids about anti-bullying, which is something I'm really passionate about. And it's given me these lifelong friendships and relationships within the cast and crew that, you know, these people are my family. They're my best friends. And I'm just so honored and blessed to be a part of it. Even if you know, the rest of the show is a total flop, which I know it won't be. It's all worth it because of, you know, just the people that I get to go work with every day.
Yeah. So you mentioned your advocacy work, and I'm guessing, does that tie in? I don't think most people know your medical history in the sense that you've kind of had it rough.
Yeah. You know, I was born 2 months premature and have cerebral palsy and scoliosis. And it was something that by the time I was 10 years old, I had undergone 6 or 7 major surgeries. I also have severe asthma. I was in a medically induced coma for 2 weeks when I was 18. I kind of went through the works as far as medical issues, and it was difficult because, you know, I felt like I had been given this passion and this gift for acting, but I was also given this curse, which was my limp, that was going to prevent me from ever realizing my potential as an actor. Because, you know, as you know, the industry has certain standards for the way you're supposed to look, or the way you're, you know, body standards and stuff like that. So when The Chosen came around and Dallas Jenkins, the creator of The Chosen, noticed my limp, he asked if he could embrace it and make it part of my character. Now season 1 was already written at that point, so we had to wait to address it in season 2. And in season 3, we address it even more and really dive into the question of why doesn't everyone get healed? It explores the relationship between faith and healing, which is a really complicated relationship. Yeah. And it's not afraid to ask those tough questions. And I'm so excited to be a part of you know, the spark that will hopefully lead to a lot of people having those conversations.
You know, it's one thing if that's a part of the script and you're acting the part, but when you're living the part, surely that has to be a whole different level.
yeah, it's playing little James on The Chosen is by far the most personal role I've ever played, because the writers and creator were so gracious to put so much of myself into the character. And in season 3, there's several scenes, but one in particular with little James and Jesus, where I'm confronting him about the fact that he hasn't healed me, and he's asking me to go heal people now. It was the most emotional, challenging, but rewarding scenes I've ever done as an actor. And I'm so excited for people to see that, which they'll be able to see in theaters on November 18th, because that's in the first 2 episodes.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. Now, very excited. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the production. I mean, my goodness, when this whole thing started, it was a few, web or app-based episodes, kind of started, catching on. Now it's worldwide. Now you're doing theater. I mean, you guys are having red carpet events in movie theaters, and people all over the world. When you lay down and go to sleep at night, does some of that ever just play in your head?
For sure. All of us in the cast of The Chosen talk about it all the time, how bizarre it is to be recognized and to have people that, we get comments that, like, when people read their Bibles, they're picturing our faces, which is one, it's a lot of pressure, but 2, it's also, as actors, you always want to be a part of something that lasts. You kind of want to leave that legacy. You want to be a part of something that impacts people long after you're gone. And I'm so grateful that we've been able to find that with The Chosen. And it's being someone that has been there since the first 4 episodes. It's wild to see how far it's come, and I'm finally at a place to where I feel like I can actually allow myself to get excited about it, because before, we never knew, like, we were having to raise money, and there was over a year in between each season, and COVID would hit and delayed everything, and it was a little more up in the air, it felt like, where none of us wanted to get too excited about what the future held. But now we're at a point where it's like, okay, I think it's here for the long run. I think we're gonna last, and it's kind of sinking in how big of an impact The Chosen has had.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Luke. People picturing his face when they think of Judas. That's
right.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So last question for you, and I appreciate your time. Where do you see Jordan as an actor? I know you guys this is season 3, and we're looking at hopefully 7 complete seasons. Where do you see yourself maybe going after this?
Let's see. Oof. So that's I've thought about that as actors. It's like the dream is to find a role that, 1, will have a lasting impact, but 2, will provide some sort of security for at least a chunk of time. Because with actors, like, you get one good job and then it's over, and then you have to find the next one. Yeah. So I've been writing a lot. I want to produce some of my own films, hopefully. Nice. But I'm open to whatever. I've played a few bad guys recently. So that's fun. That's not something I really had a lot of opportunities to do before, earlier in my career. So they always say that it's more fun to play the bad guy. So that's been fun. But yeah, I'm really, I just want to keep playing roles that challenge me and challenge the viewer and make people think, and that spark conversations and hopefully leave some sort of impression. So that's my goal.
Well, you're leaving a good impression with The Chosen, so you're off to a great start.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Jordan, appreciate your time.
Thank you. You too.
Amber Williams plays Tamar. Now, who is Tamar, you might be asking? She is the friend of the paralytic that witnesses such a miracle that she becomes a radical follower of Jesus. Amber, great to have you today.
Hi, Randy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So this character, Tamar, is an interesting one because she's not really specifically in Scripture. Mm-hmm. But more than that, She is a Gentile. She's African. She's a woman. How has this character been for you portraying her?
You've hit every one of those points. Tamar represents a lot of people in the Bible who are either unnamed or referenced to, who actually existed in those times. And I love that The Chosen has kind of breathed life and giving them dynamic to add such a colorful part of the story of Christ or the lives of those around him. For me, I definitely relate to Tamara on such a deep level because all of those things that you've listed makes her the other.
Mm.
She stands out in a crowd, not just because she's wildly adorned, which she is. She has the best wardrobe on the show, but she does come from a different place, and she speaks a different language, and she has a different faith, and it's just something that I've experienced because I'm currently living in Spain. I've been here 5.5 years. I'm a woman of color. It's a journey that I've experienced in my life of being the other in a lot of rooms that I walked in. And the great thing about The Chosen is that they're telling the story truthfully. And that's the great thing about it is like when you tell a story truthfully, everyone's story gets told. And it's not about who is getting their screen time. It's about being truthful to the story. These are all just real people that existed in this time. And not much has changed in 2,000 years. You know, we're still trying to do the same thing every day just to make it to tomorrow.
One of the beautiful things about Scripture is that it says the kingdom of heaven is comprised of every tribe and every nation. And one thing I like about The Chosen is that's kind of true on the set. How's it been being in such a beautiful mix of people from all over the place coming together to make The Chosen, which is very similar to what Jesus did when he chose people?
Well, I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's truthfully telling a story. And so when you do that, everyone shows up. Everyone's story is getting told, and it's such a great experience. It creates a safe space as well for me as a person, as an actor, to just be surrounded by so much openness and love.
Mm.
And it's like you said, in the kingdom of heaven, like it's, if you remember from episode 6 in season 1, when Tamara's first introduced to the group, and she meets Jesus, what's the first thing that he does? He meets her on her level. He comes down, he starts speaking to her in her own language.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about the show is how it relates to each and every one of us in the place that we're in, and how there's someone on the show, because there's so many different amazing characters. The writing is so good that you can just watch a show and be like, that's me. I've been there, or that's my mom, that's my wife, that's my son. Like, and it's done so beautifully. It's just great storytelling. So even if you're not watching it, you know, from a faith perspective, it's an amazing just storytelling and cinematography, and it's just a great show all around.
I understand that you were only supposed to be on one episode originally. Is that right?
That's what I've heard. So Tamar had a big question mark, but they knew for sure that it was going to be like 1, maybe 2 episodes. There was no expectation whatsoever for her character after that, because she is a character that was more or less a creative license. Like and I want to delve into it without spoilers, but they do such a great job of using her to connect the stories of the Bible. But at that time, I was just grateful to be there. I got that audition when I was living in Spain. I didn't even make any money from that. I literally wanted to be on the show so bad, and they wanted a local actor. I was just like, don't worry about paying me. I'm going to use whatever you send me to pay for my flight and my hotel to get there. I just want to be on the show. And that's how much it meant to me. And I got so excited when they called me for season 2. I was just expecting a couple episodes in season 2, and that was it. And my first day that I got to set in Utah, Dallas welcomed me with a big hug, and he said, "Welcome to the group." And I was like, "What does that mean?" What do you mean, welcome to the group? And it was there that I found out that she'd be more or less a permanent part of the followers of Christ on The Chosen. And it was such a blessing for me, because it really just made me realize how much that I am living prayers right now, prayers that I've made and prayers that others have made for me.
Yeah. Okay. So I respect the whole no spoilers thing, but you're kind of teasing me a little bit.
I
But that does mean that we're going to see quite a bit more of you in season 3.
I think I can safely say that. Yeah, I can safely say that we'll see a lot more of Tamar, and I think I can safely say that because a lot of people ask me, where is she from? Why is she here? What has she gone through? What's her story? Like, we got to know why she's so fancy dressing. So we're going to find out in season 3 a little bit more about her,
Okay.
where she comes from, her history, and why she is the way she is, and what brought her to court him in the first place.
Well, good on them, because I literally watched season 2. I was like, that's an interesting character. I wonder what her story is. So I look forward to hearing more. But I'm curious about what Amber Williams' story is. How did you get to this place in acting? And you mentioned obviously being in Spain and connecting with The Chosen. What's your story?
So my story is just a tremendous lesson on faith, to be honest, and just and just kind of leaving it up, like giving that burden away. I had such a dynamic life. I'm going to say that. I'm going to leave it there. I've had a dynamic life, and I actually didn't. I wanted to be an actor, but I never thought that was something that real life people can do. And so I went to school and went to nursing school.
Really?
I did. And I did everything that I thought, the right way, but my heart kept, being called to be an actor. And one day someone really close to me, my best friend, like my grandfather, he passed away. But before he passed away, he was like, you know what? I worked really hard in my life for you to be able to do whatever it is you want to do with yours. And then he passed away 2 days later. And that got me thinking that I wasn't giving it up to God and living my life to the true potential, and just laying that burden down and giving it a chance. And so I just left everything behind, left my corporate job and moved away. And I was just like, okay, and I'm going to do this. And a few years later is when I got an opportunity to audition for The Chosen. And as an actor, you might have heard this story before. We're usually, when these kind of opportunities come, we're on the edge of giving up. We're just like, I've been doing this for 10 years. Nothing's happening. I am depressed. I'm sad, because a lot of our self-worth, we realize we tie into our value. We tie into our ability to work.
Yeah.
And it came when it was supposed to. Like, when church, they always tell you, it may not come when he may not come when you want him, but he's always there on time. The things that you pay for may not look like or come in the package that you expected them to. And I definitely wasn't expecting it to come in the form of The Chosen. And it was, to me, like the little series that could. It was kind of like a passion project in all aspects. It was being crowdfunded at the time, and you had no idea that it was going to be such a global phenomenon that it became, and how many people that it affected, and how now I'm a part of this. And it's just been so overwhelming in all the best ways.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's the last question for you. Because your character is sort of the outsider, what do you hope anybody who feels like an outsider comes away with when they watch The Chosen?
I want anyone that watched The Chosen to walk away feeling good, feeling loved, feeling inspired, and feeling like they belong. And I think The Chosen does so well of connecting with people across, like, transcending race and religion and creed, and just connecting to people on a human level. And that's what Jesus did, because Christianity did not exist at the time. And here he is. Now you have Gentiles following him, this group of Jewish people, and she's like learning about their faith. And it's just, I really want it to affect people the way that it's affected me. And it's just, a lot of what we consume nowadays is a little traumatizing, I think. It doesn't leave us with happy feelings often when we finish watching it. And I want The Chosen, when you walk away from this, that you feel lifted, that you feel triumphant, because yes, they take risk and they tell stories in ways that we've never seen these types of stories told before. But at the end of the day, you know that there's triumph, and that you belong, that you're loved. And I just want that for everyone that watches it. So no matter what you believe and where you come from, that you belong. And we see that with even the disciples that Jesus chose to be his apostles. And it's really beautiful, and it's relatable on so many levels.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Randy. It's been a blessing.
Lara Silva plays Eden in the series, and if you know your Bible, you're going, who is Eden? Well, that's one of the more interesting things about The Chosen. Laura, great to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me, Randy. Yes, this is awesome.
So, how do you approach it? I mean, because essentially, The Chosen is kind of historical fiction. I mean, it has historical facts, but it has characters like you who aren't necessarily in scripture. Do you know if there's any basis for your character in other writings or anything?
Not that I've been able to, like, when I started digging into, okay, Simon Peter's wife, really the only thing I could find that was factual was that Simon was married and that Jesus healed his mother-in-law. So that's in scripture.
Oh, okay.
Right. But other than that, I really couldn't find like real facts as far as like who she might have been or anything, as far as like personality traits or any like true stories that we could find, unlike some of the other disciples where you can kind of read their stories and you can kind of get an idea of who they might have been, personality traits and what makes them them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Does that give you more freedom as an actor? And I mean, you're following the writer's scripts, I get that, but how do you approach that?
Yes, it gave me all the freedom to really be able to play and use who I am, my personality, my own truths and my experiences to then bring Eden to life. And that's been the best part because the writers and the creators really allow all of us to do that and bring ourselves into it, because that's how we portray our authentic selves, so that when you're seeing what you're seeing on screen, we are having these real moments and how we would react to whatever is going on truthfully, so that it looks, so that it's
believable.
It's enjoyable to watch. Yes.
Yeah. And it is believable. Okay. So that begs the question, who is Lara Silva?
Who am I? Oh man, it's never easy, like explaining or like talking about yourself. I am many things. I grew up in Brazil. Well, I was born in Brazil, and then I grew up in South Florida, and I didn't always have a strong faith rooted. My mom was raised Catholic, but we never really went to church. It was something that she kind of wanted us to decide on for ourselves. That we grew up believing in God, and but I never had a like relationship with Jesus and who he is, and the authentic Jesus that we read about. So it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I just kind of was really lost in feeling like I didn't know what I really wanted to do with my life. And I had been, I was in college for a few years and I wanted to go into sciences, but I just felt misplaced. And I didn't feel like that was truly where I was going to be happy. And I just fell into like a real dark place and depression where I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm feeling this like emptiness. And so when I think when I really surrendered, like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Around the same time that I found Jesus and found God, was the same time that I realized that acting was what I'm supposed to be doing, even though I had no idea, prior. I didn't have really any classes prior or like any real training, but I decided to just go for it. And I started taking just local acting classes in South Florida, and it just became my home where I felt I belonged. And then it was around the same time I started going to church and really opening up myself to who Christ is. And it's like he spoke to me almost like telling me this is what I meant to do. So,
okay. Yeah. So now that has to be a bit of looking back on it, kind of a weird thing, because you're like, okay, I take this step personally, and then professionally, land in something that not only is about Jesus, but has really taken off, and it's a global phenomenon.
It's mind blowing, honestly. Like, I remember praying about it when because the script was so well written, and I had first auditioned for Mary Magdalene, and I just remember how rich and beautiful the character was written, with layers and like a real human, people who make mistakes, and I was like, wow, there's not a lot of good stuff like this written, especially, at the level that I was at for acting. I was used to just doing commercial work or one line, like here and there on a show or something. And so the opportunity in itself was God sent, truly, because I didn't even have like a big agent that like submitted me for it.
Really?
It's just the whole story of how I even got to know about The Chosen was like through a mutual friend who was on a faith-based show. And it's like all these little connect the dot God moments that I call them, to even get me on where I am. I feel like I still suffer from like imposter syndrome in a way. It's like, how am I here? I feel so unqualified, but I'm constantly reminded that that's what Jesus does. He constantly uses people that aren't necessarily, don't feel like they're good enough or big enough to do good big things. So
you gotta wonder if you hadn't kind of surrendered your life, if you would have been here.
I don't know.
I know.
I don't know where I would be. I don't know.
So you guys finished season 3. We got the movie theater premiere coming up on November 18th. Very exciting.
Yes, we're really excited.
Where do you? I know I know the end of the story with a lot of these people, a lot of the characters. Where does your story arc? Where's it going?
You will have to watch and see. Honestly, with season 1, Eden is introduced, and the dynamic with Simon and Eden, and how he's now, first it starts off where we're in debt, and like you're dealing with these marital problems, and I'm telling him I need him to be the man that like I married, and I'm strong in my faith where he's not so much. And then he encounters Jesus, and it's like, yes, and we knew all along, this is who you're meant to be, what you're meant to do, and I'm supportive. And then season 2, you don't really see a lot of Eden until the very end. She comes in for Sermon on the Mount. Spoiler alerts, if anybody hasn't seen season 1 and 2 yet, you can binge it on the app before it comes out in theaters.
No, great idea.
So yeah. And, so she comes in at the end, and then season 3 picks up where that leaves off. And so season 3 is when you really start to see Eden's arc, I think, for sure.
Right.
Now it's like the honeymoon stage is over, and yes, she's excited that he gets to go and follow Jesus. However, what goes on while she's alone, when she's at home and she's missing him, and I think so many people can relate to that with traveling spouses or things like that.
Wow. Yeah, my dad was an evangelist and gone about 300 days out of the year as I grew up. So I'm sure my mother can relate to that quite a bit. So
I hope so.
Here's the question, because no spoilers. So the tension that comes into season 3 that affects everyone. Listen, I want to ask how Eden handles it, but I don't. I know you can't. I know I don't want to give things away, and I'm not going to ask you to. But how do you?
It's okay. What
can you say?
What I can say is that she has a hard time handling a lot. Just like anybody would, I think. And there are moments when there's moments when your faith is tested, and you could be so strong in your faith one day, and then the next, depending on the circumstances and what's going on in your life or what's happening to you, that can be, wavered sometimes. And you're wondering, like, where is God in all of this? Because I don't feel him here,
Yeah. Well,
she goes through that.
Here's kind of my question. I'm guessing you've at least thought about this, because we view the Bible in the very male dominant lens of the Jewish culture of the day. But if you actually read the Bible, you've got Jesus encountering a woman at the well, Mary Magdalene. I mean, Jesus elevates women. Have you spent much time sort of crafting in the character, the woman's perspective of the gospel?
Yes.
Where do you go with
Yes.
that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think when you're reading the gospel as a woman, and you do see Jesus encountering these women and how he speaks to them and how he not just elevates them, but he brings them along with him, essentially as followers as well. So he's not saying that the male disciples are more important than the female encounters or Mary Magdalene. She's equal. She's right there with them.
Yeah.
And that means everything, because a lot of times I feel like that wasn't always the case too, like especially back in the day when like women weren't allowed to lead the churches or anything like that. And so I think really I love that The Chosen is highlighting women and showing that Jesus really saw them as equals as well, and just as important. And a lot of times he used women in the most important parts of his ministry.
Yes, he did.
So
yes, he did. And and yet 2,000 years later, some people still don't get that.
I know. I'm like, you can't be Bible thumping if you don't know what's in it.
Laura, okay. Wow. I love the insight, and I appreciate the character. You do a great job with it. It brings not just a fun dimension, because if we know, okay, I mean, some of these guys obviously had wives. How would it impact their wives? I mean, and that's interesting to think about and visualize and see. But it brings a richness to it. Is there anything you want to add before I let you go? I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. I'm just really excited for our audience, our devoted fans and new audience members, hopefully, to go out and see what we have for season 3, because we've worked so hard on it, and the story just keeps getting better, and you'll get to see just different storylines, unfolding, and really, I think people are going to be able to relate a lot, especially women.
Yeah.
So November 18th. We're excited.
Yes. And we are, I'm excited to see it too. So thank you again. Appreciate you. And hope they let you stick around as long as, I mean, you can be all the way through season 7. There's nothing stopping,
I
them
know.
from writing
I hope
you in.
so.
So tell the writers to keep you around. All right.
I will. I'll let them know. Randy said so.
That's exactly right. They'll be like, who? Okay.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's it for today. Get your tickets. Go to The Chosen's website at Angel Studios, angel.com, or Fathom Events, and make plans now. You've got the weekend to get everybody together and say, let's go see it. And come back if you haven't subscribed or followed or liked or shared. Share. That's a great one. Your friends will like this one. Do that now. And come back next week. We will see you. Have a great weekend. See you again next time right here on Life Today Live.
Who speaks these words? Come unto me. God incarnate as the appointed mediator between God and man. No man comes to the Father but by me. The only way to God is Jesus Christ.